Right, good afternoon, members. Welcome to the meeting. Apologies for my tardiness. Mr. White, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Leader. Good afternoon, members. We have no apologies and a full house of Hub Committee members.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. Declarations of interest, please. If anybody has any, please shout now or mention them when they come up in the meeting. Thank you. Right, item 3, items requiring urgent attention. I have none. Mr. White?
There are none, thank you, Leader.
Thank you. If we do the confirmation of the minutes, they're on pages 1 to 8 of your agenda. I will go through a page at a time, as normal. So page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sorry, 7. Is everybody happy with those minutes? That's lovely, thank you. I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Okay, all those in favour? Thank you very much.
For the minutes, thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Right, if we could move forward now to public questions. I'm not aware of any.
That's correct, Leader. There are none.
Thank you. So if we move on to pages 9 to 14 of your agenda for the Hub Committee Forward Plan, there are a few decisions that are being made today at this meeting. And then we move on to the 9th of June meeting. Is everybody happy with what they've got going forward? Does anybody need to change dates or anything? We all think we're going to make our targets, so that's good. So everybody okay going forwards? 9th June, 21st of July. Oh, we need to note the 21st of July, the meeting's in the morning, not at 2 o'clock like we normally are. Don't know why, but somebody will tell me at some point. Golly, and we've got them going right through to September, October, December. We don't want to go that far. Right, so is everyone happy with that? Anything anybody would like to add or anything else to their portfolio? No? Wonderful. Thank you very much. So item 7 is the Integrated Performance Management report, which I am going to ask. There he is. Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Hawke if he would like to put forward, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. I'll lean into the microphone. So the report in front of you today provides a high-level overview of the 25-26 Council Plan actions and key performance indicators. It's a formal report that closes down last year's delivery plan, and pleasingly 77 of the actions in last year's plan were completed or transferred to business as usual at the end of year. So those may have been projects which now we're delivering within services as part of our core delivery. And 35 remaining actions have continued into the year ahead. And as you'll recall, in March, full council resolved to adopt an updated delivery plan, which represents a further 4.4 million investment in the council priorities for the year ahead. We will continue to report on progress against the delivery plan via the typical integrated performance management report. So members will know that usually you get a portrait document with some highlights per theme. The reason we haven't put that in front of you today is because in May at full council you will be receiving the council's updated annual report, and that will set out the key achievements against the themes across the council priorities. We will also continue to report on operational performance of KPIs to overview and scrutiny. I think in terms of those KPIs, we've touched on it in this report, but it is very high level. For the previous year, 15 of the key performance indicators for the council were on track or exceeding the target, with 2 slightly off track, which were the recycling rates and the revenues calls answering times. both of those, we have included the narrative around why they're off track within the report, so I don't propose to go over that now. Finally, the report highlights the result of our 24-25 external audit for the council, where we received the highest possible rating across all three categories from our external auditors. So I think, in summary, Leader, the report demonstrates a positive performance across the council for the previous financial year at both a strategic and, council plan level and operational service delivery level. I'll stop there, I think.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hawke. I would like to say thank you to all members for this report, for the due diligence that you have shown to your portfolios, which is much appreciated, and to the officers who guide us and send us on our way, really. But that help and the work that we do to get the highest report rating from an external auditor is really good, and I can see Mrs. Buckle with a smile. And Mr. Councillor Edmonds, so we're doing well. The two finance people smiling. So I'm really pleased with that. So does anybody have any questions, please, or points they would like to raise? Councillor West, please.
I am aware that we are hopefully going to be getting a part-time recycling person to help advise us on that. I'm just wondering whether that person is operative for us, obviously, because of the impacts on our recycling rates. Although they're really good against national, I think 10% up on national, below what we expect. Is that person working? Working at the moment, or when are we expecting them to be on tap, so to speak?
Hang on a minute.
Moody will answer that, please.
Yes, they have. They are operative, and we're sharing them with South Hounds as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? No? Okay. So you can see the recommendations on the screen and on page 15 of your agendas. And that basically we're just doing some welcoming. So all those in favour of welcoming, please.
Unanimously welcomed. Thank you.
You'll welcome it, will you? Right. So now we move on to Councillor Elliott with the Crisis and Resilience Fund for heating oil support for low-income households. This is a really important report. It is having a bit of impact within questions that even I'm receiving in my inbox and things. So the work here that Councillor Elliott has done with Mrs. Hotchkiss, who is our Head of Revenues and Benefits, and here she comes to join us at the table. So I will ask Councillor Elliott if she would like to go first, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I think it's good to start with just a couple of bits of background to this, to orient us. So one piece of background is the Crisis and Resilience Fund. So just to remind members of HUB that this is a fund that was set up a number of months ago by government, and it's a very broad fund, literally, to support people's crisis and resilience. And they're delivering that by giving money to counties or unitaries, and then in our case, for it to, some of it to trickle down to borough and district level. So there is a huge piece of work that Mrs. Hotchkiss's team is doing to make sure that we deliver on the Crisis and Resilience Fund. And we've already had a paper to HUB for one part of that, and we'll continue to work through that. One of the really good things about this fund is that it's over 3 years. It gives us a little bit more certainty of finances. And this, as we've said before, is very much to support the most vulnerable people within our borough. And the challenge for us is to make sure we identify those people, and that we also have some sort of schemes of open application so that people can come forward where they need our help. But this specific paper is the other piece of background that I think is important to highlight. And that is, it's around heating oil support. And of course, the reason that people who are on, or some people who are using oil for their heating, need more support is because of the war in Iran, the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, or all the uncertainty there, and the increase in oil prices. So I would think it's good to be very practical about this, and I double-checked how much oil had gone up. And we have heating oil, so it's fair. I know sort of emotionally how much it's gone up, but I thought I'd look at the figures. And a few months ago, it was in the order of 60p a litre, and then it went up to £1.20 a litre. So we're talking about huge increases here. It's come down a little bit from that 120, and of course different suppliers will give you slightly different prices. But I think it's important for members to orient themselves and know that we're not talking about 5 or 10% increases. We're talking about, 100% increase from 60p a litre to £1.20 a litre. So the central government made the announcement that they would be supporting households on low incomes who were reliant on heating oil for their heating and hot water. And so Mrs. Hotchkiss's team has been doing a piece of work to identify how many people there are within our borough who would fall into that category. And once again, we can identify people, but we also have to have a sort of open ability for people to apply, because we don't necessarily know all of the sort of hidden people that are out there. So as you will have seen from the paper, we are getting about £80,500 for the coming year. And Mrs. Hotchkiss's team has identified 201 households who would fall into the category of relying on heating oil and having a low income. So if you do the mental maths, that would be around £400 per household over the whole year. So it's not a trivial amount, but if you think of how much people spend on heating oil, that's, it's a contribution, but it's not going to completely solve the problem. And I'm not saying that all 201 people will get exactly £400. I'm just trying to give people a sense of the quantum here. So to turn back to the recommendation, having given you the sort of broad overview, we need to be giving delegated authority to Mrs. Hotchkiss as the head of revenues and benefits, because this is a sort of moving piece of work, and we need to ensure that she can respond to the new information that comes through. But that's the sort of order of magnitude that we're going to be able to support households with. So I think I should probably stop there, see if Mrs. Hotchkiss has got anything to add that I might have missed, and then welcome questions, because this is a really important part of the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Elliott. Very well explained to everyone. Mrs. Hotchkiss, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Leader.
I didn't think you would. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Elliott or Mrs. Hotchkiss? Councillor West.
Having watched the People's Emergency briefing this morning, which was fascinating, I'm very interested in the fact that, of course, if we're talking about people using oil, a lot of those people are what we call off the grid. And in many respects, there are opportunities there for those people in terms of solar power, wind power, etc., etc. The question I'm going to ask is this. As we know, we had the HUG project, which has now gone to the Warm Homes local grant. And that is trying to get people on lower incomes and inefficient houses, etc., to get involved and get an upgrade, which we facilitate through grants, etc. Is there, and sorry to put this on you, Ginny, is there any correlation between those 201 people and looking at going for the HUG grants or the Warmer Home grants?
We don't have that data, I don't think, at the moment, but we could have a look and provide that data to see if there's any correlation there.
Because I'm just interested in terms of us when we're putting out those grants, will we be advertising our Warm Homes grant to those people, because it may be relevant to a number of them in that situation?
My colleague Dave Sexton is on Teams. I don't know if he wants to come in.
Good afternoon. Yes, I can answer that. So we work very closely with Tamar Energy Communities. So I would have thought that they would be aware of this funding, that when they are seeing vulnerable residents, that they will give them that offer. They say whether or not they'll push them down Warmer Home Local Grant, which only really equates to about sort of 30 homes for this year in West Devon. So we're not talking a massive dent, but obviously they're from when they go out and meet people in fuel poverty, they'll talk about, like I said, the right amount of benefits they're on, and obviously whatever help's available.
So as a matter of course, would it be possible when we are talking to these people, providing these benefits, that we do highlight the warm homes? I appreciate what David's just said about 30, but we've got, is it 2 or 3 years of funding left, David, on it?
2 years left.
So that could be up to 60 of these 201 potentially, some of their issues removed, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely. We will, the team are having, or will be starting to having those wider discussions, because one of the key drivers of this scheme is longevity, and that wraparound support, longer term solutions. So in the round, the team do need to be having those conversations with residents as they process these applications.
I mean, yes, that would be, I'll comment later that it's very much a long-term, the hug is a long-term thing, but obviously we've got this immediate situation, so I welcome it and the work we're doing with it, but if we can get benefit and get leverage out of it, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Does anyone else on the hub have any questions, please?
Just a very quick question, really, and it's about communication and getting that information out there. What channels are we using to do that? So
I would say that this is the second of 3 papers. So the paper that's going to have the meat in it essentially is the paper that's going to come to Hub in June. As part of that, we will have a communications plan, just in terms of getting the messages around the wider support available out there. In the meantime, at the moment, there's information on our website. We have done some quite light touch social media messaging. We probably, we need to add to that once the subsequent decision is made regarding the rest of the fund, hopefully in June. We're just thinking about some of the community groups and organisations that we do need to be engaging with, because we're obviously aware of the geography, the demographic of West Devon, and not everybody reads things online. We need to make sure that we do take into account that some people are digitally excluded, and the communications plan will incorporate those aspects as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Goffey, please.
Thank you. 2 things. Are you going to be working through citizens' advice bureaus in Tavistock and Oakhampton? And the second thing is, what about people who are not claiming any sort of benefit but are on a low income? Will they be considered too?
Thank you. So in answer to the first question, sorry that I've got my back to you. So in terms of the next paper, this is around the additional funding that we are receiving for the other aspects of the Crisis and Resilience Fund. And as part of that, we are about to have discussions with organisations like Citizens Advice, just to see to what extent we can collaborate and work together. Apologies, what was the second question?
People who are on low income but not registered with the with benefits.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's helpful to use data sets because we can obviously directly target people and contact them. But more widely, going back to Councillor Render's question, it's kind of around, it's that communication, and it's making sure that we're using all avenues, including things like, doctors' surgeries, that sort of thing, just to make sure that we're getting the messages out there as wide as possible.
Councillor Daniel, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about listed buildings, because I happen to live in a listed thatched cottage, which is on oil because we're off-grid, and we are unable to make the home into the energy-efficient home so that we can have a heat pump. And I'm wondering, what are we going to do about that? Because we're not the only building that's listed or older within our ward, and can we make some changes to our planning rules to enable people to upgrade the homes that they've got? Thank you.
Are you able to answer that, Mrs Hodgkiss?
Unfortunately, I don't know anything about planning.
Right, okay. The Chief Exec has just whispered a few comments to me, and actually I think they're very pertinent to the issue. Councillor Elliott, would you like to say anything, or will you give way for the moment to the Chief Exec?
No, I think I'll welcome the Chief Exec's comments on this. It's a very broad issue. It's quite a difficult one.
I think it really is a tricky one, isn't it? Because there's a balance to be struck here between heritage and protection of our heritage, which is incredibly important. But at the same time, some of the planning restrictions around listed buildings do make it incredibly difficult for people to make the sorts of modifications to houses that other people would, changing their windows, for example, to sealed units, etc., many other things. So I think it's quite a complicated situation, and I think the way the listed building legislation is written is quite binary. You're either in one camp or in another, and I think it's an area that perhaps national government really should be having a little look at, because there should be a room really, I think, for a bit of compromise through that, where the integrity of the building is maintained, enhanced, but not at the expense of people being able to keep themselves warm and secure. And you might argue, I think, and I would argue certainly, that if you maintain the integrity of the building, prevent damp and other ingresses, you're also looking after the building at the same time. So I think it's one for national government to put a bit more focus on, myself.
Thank you. I'm sorry that it is a broad question, but also I think it's very pertinent to mention the damp and the mould that you do get in a listed building, because they're so difficult to keep as warm as you would like. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. Does anybody else have any questions, please? You may have a second.
Thank you. Being an oil user myself, I know that I'm basically working on fumes at the moment in the hope that the price goes down. So I think in terms of demand for this grant probably will be muted because of that factor. Would you say it was over 3 years? Is that right, Ginny?
No, this particular grant is just until the 31st of March 2027.
Sorry. So my question to you is this. How are you going to manage the demand over that period? Because I would suggest there'd be obviously a lot more demand in the autumn when people suddenly realise they've got to fill their tanks. How have you got that? Have you got that thought process in hand?
Yes. So this grant was cascaded from the county council for the specific purpose of heating oil. In terms of the wider funding that we will be receiving for the Crisis and Resilience Fund, we are able to use some of that funding for energy payments. So we could look to supplement this particular budget with the wider grant. But what we do need to do is we need to make sure that we are profiling, we are budgeting essentially on a monthly basis to make sure that we still have enough in reserve effectively when we have spikes even in demand later on in the year as the autumn and winter hits again, potentially.
So a bit more work then, but thank you.
Right. There seems to be no more questions. So, Councillor Elliott, would you like to put forward your recommendation?
Yes, so I'll just formally put forward the recommendation. I'll allow people to read it on the screen, and just to emphasise how welcome the different questions have been. And, you know, one thing I did miss from the paper, but is clearly laid out in the paper, is that we're not just giving out crisis and resilience fund monies, but we have also got things like, well, what used to be the home upgrade grants, as you identified, Councillor West. So there are a number of components to this. And in answer to some of the other questions, you know, this 80,000 that I was describing is specifically to support people who have got low income and are on oil, but that doesn't stop people who are on oil applying for the wider Crisis and Resilience Fund. So, and that is why we're deliberately delegating authority to the head of revenues and benefits, because this is quite a complex piece here. So I formally move the recommendation as on the screen. Need a seconder.
I'm happy to second. Any debate from anybody? Councillor Jury, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could just add, I really appreciate this being stood up so quickly and the involvement at work, but I think the points that Councillor Elliott has made are also really, really important, that this is a short-term fix, sticking plaster that's going to help a few people. The longer term does involve things like the HUG grant, the work that Tamar Energy Community are doing with Mr Sexton, and despite the withdrawal of UK Shared Prosperity Funding, West Devon is continuing to support that work, which I really appreciate as well. And there are also government grants available. I think there's a grant available for replacement of your boiler, which is just going up to £9,000 if you are eligible. So there are other things that we can get out to people and help with the longer term solutions to this. I'd also add that I know Tamar Energy Community secured a grant to look into a community energy hub at Sheepstore, which they're developing as well. So that could be part of the future arrangements that help with all of this problem as well. So I think there's a lot going on for the longer term, but this is a short-term measure I really appreciate and really support.
Thank you very much. I would just like to add that with the board, that our committee, as they're called now, the Local Government Association that I sit on, some of our discussions around the planning and listed buildings, etc., I would ask some of our officers to look at, so I can put forward the issues that we've raised, so they do get to national government, and I'm more than happy to do that to support us, and particularly rural life, because there's not just listed cottages in West Devon, they're all over the country, so I'm more than happy to put that forward, and possibly working with the Rural Services Network as well, because I've just sent them a message about something I'm doing on Friday, saying, do they have any questions, as I have the opportunity to raise them, and in this case with the Chief Medical Officer. So thank you all very much for that. May I see a vote, please?
That's unanimous, the recommendation. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Elliott and Mrs Hotchkiss. Thank you. Right, so if we move now to agenda item 9, which is page 49 of your agendas, and we're going to have Mr Parkinson. Is there an Alexis? There she is. Hello, Alexis. And Councillor Bridgewater, please. So you going first, Councillor Bridgewater?
I'll go first, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, members. Just to let you know that this here is to note the recommendations on the board there, and the progress of the investment of over 1.9 million in the community sports facilities across West Devon for 2024-25 and the proposals for 2026. This report showcases the significant level of funding and support for community sports provision across West Devon. In In the past year, and including sums allocated for next year on projects, West Devon Borough Council will have invested 1.9 million into community sports facilities. This will help to provide positive outcomes on physical and mental health, as well as social health and well-being for residents. Sport England reports that for every £1 spent on community sport, it generates £4 towards the economy and society. Although a discretionary service, leisure centre provision and sports facilities are seen as essential health hubs, benefiting communities and improving health and well-being. It is, however, important to recognise that the provision and improvement of sports facilities can take time and is subject to various factors. This includes having the appropriate policies and plans in place and that permissions are met, such as planning, leases, grants and funding, undertaking consultations, costings and going to tender. This report celebrates the investments made in our leisure centres, BMX tracks, rugby, football and cricket clubs over the past year. South Hams and West Devon also have a playing pitch strategy that is closely linked to 106 monies from specific housing development. We have been recognised by Sport England as an area of best practice for our work in this area. We plan, with your indulgence, to carry on the fantastic work undertaken by our officers. And at this point, I would like to personally thank John Parkinson and Alexis Huggins for their sterling work. We plan to continue the provision of local sport and recreational facilities, providing safe, welcoming and reliable services. We will continue to develop funding through 106 contributions, partnership funding and external grants from Sport England, as well as local fundraising by parish and town councils and local clubs. We will, however, have to consider future investments in our leisure centres, as we know they are ageing and have significant running and maintenance costs. This is a similar position nationally and is a major priority for the public leisure sector. But on the whole, the investment secured and delivered by West Devon Borough Council for works undertaken now and in the future really should be something that we could be very proud of.
Thank you, Councillor Bridgewater. Mr Parkinson, Ms Huggins, would you like to add anything to that report? Mr Parkinson.
Only that it's, as Councillor Bridgewater says, the positive impact that we as a council are supporting and facilitating funding or through our strategy work. The great work our local community sports clubs and volunteers do, the local facility provision where we've supported has that big impact, and that's recognised through Sport England's social and community values. So I think, just to reiterate that point. And in fact, there was a recent report just came out through the government, the DCMS Game On, which highlights the value of community and school sport, but recognises there is still a long way to go on funding. As highlighted, we've got an ageing infrastructure, particularly with our local leisure facilities, but having good local support that we can offer will certainly make a huge impact at the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis, would you like to add anything?
No, I think everyone else has covered everything. Thanks.
Has anybody got any questions for our leisure people? No? Right. I would like... Councillor Mott.
I think really just to sort of say how well we are doing at providing this and the tremendous work that's gone on to be able to provide this for the community. And I think sometimes we don't always shout about what we do well, and this is one of those things that we have done well.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say when we got past the formal part. Mr Parkinson and Alexis know how much this means to me because I nag the pair of them constantly, especially poor Alexis over the years. It is really important to all our communities that we have play areas, we have specific, almost like sport areas that we can improve on and things like that. It's not all about leisure, as we can see from the list of sports that we've supported across the borough, and, long may it continue. I know now that we are having to work more closely with Tavistock College because some of their facilities, they're sort of putting more of the weight of the voluntary sector to maintain them and look after them. So, you know, we've been able to assist with that. And, you know, we're good at recognising some of the sports that we've given a lot to and some that have been slightly neglected, but not for any said reason. It's just it's not come up. With the work that Alexis has done in particular, we now within our section 106s don't actually specify which sports and where, which is what sort of constrained us quite a lot when Mr. Parkinson and I first started doing this, that, you know, you could, for example, only give to Crowndale or you could only give to, you know, wherever. And that now has been lifted, particularly through the work Alexis has done. So a big thank you to Alexis and to Mr. Parkinson. I really appreciate all the work, despite all my nagging. She's grinning. But yes, thank you very much for that. Before we note, has anyone else got anything they would like to add? Councillor West, please.
Again, I would just pick up on what you said. Having been there at the opening with Angela Rippin of the Rippin at Horrobridge, what's great about it is that it's actually the Horrobridge Football Club, but there's a community element to it, and that's the point. It's that partnership which brings these facilities, up-to-date facilities, to communities are vital. And the Horrobridge Pavilion is a good example of that. So well done for getting that going, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, go on.
Just to add on to that, really, it proves the point that it's across the whole of the, I know you mentioned it, the borough rather than just the two main areas, and that's a big, big thing, being a rural representative myself.
I'm going to ask a question now of you, and Councillor Mott. When you do your Section 106s on Dartmoor National Park in the areas there, do you actually specify monies that can come towards West Devon in contribution towards sports play park strategies?
Not specifically to West Devon, but certainly to the communities which lie within West Devon. So they are tied, like our 106s are, to the direct community that are affected and impacted by the application.
Right, so then are we able to influence anything within that, Alexis, or not?
Yeah, so I was just going to say that I do get planning consultation requests sometimes from Dartmoor National Park, and so when I do, I input and try to seek monies. So, and we have been successful in that in some instances. So,
I hope you're seeking the maximum that you always can, Alexis, which I know you're quite good at doing.
Yes, I'm seeking it in accordance with what we ask for, because Dartmoor don't have their own contribution figures. So,
thank you, and thank you, Councillor Mott and Renders. Right, is everybody happy to note the recommendation, please? Hands up.
That's noted. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parkinson. Thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Councillor Bridgewater. So next is item 10, and that's page 57. And once again, that is Councillor Bridgewater, the provision of
No, the appendix, part 2, the report itself,
right,
part 1.
Okay, right. Just before I really put my foot in it. Can't be doing that. Councillor Bridgewater, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, as stated there on the screen, this is to note that the fusion has entered into administration. The purpose of this report is to firstly inform the Council that despite the Council's continued financial support, that the Council's leisure provider fusion has gone into administration as of the 1st of April of this year. Secondly, we wish to set out the making of an interim contract to our third-party leisure provider, Parkwood Leisure. While Parkwood provide the service in the short term, this council will undertake a procurement procedure to secure a long-term operator for our leisure. Importantly to all involved, this report explains that as a result of the swift and diligent action taken by officers, it is very much business as usual. The centres will remain open, jobs have been saved, Memberships remain active and scheduled classes will continue. There is a list of frequently asked questions that are on the website for the public. And as a latest news this morning from Lisa, thank you very much, is very much everything is on track, including the data retention and transfer. And we're hoping that everything goes smoothly as we think it is at present. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions, please? Good. Sorry. I would particularly like to thank Councillor Bridgewater, Mr Fairbairn, Mrs Buckle and Mr Molyneux for the work they have done on this. I know for a few months it has been absolutely tireless working, an incredible amount of hours negotiating and everything else to get this to where it has. Personally, once again, I'm absolutely delighted that all the staff have kept their jobs, that they are working with potential new provider, and you know everything is on track for when we let the next bit of the contract. And I just want the public to know that we have bent over backwards to keep this facility, you know, the facilities in West Devon, so Parklands in Oakhampton and Meadowlands in Tavistock, to keep them open and for there to be no noticeable difference to a member of the public. They go in, they do everything in the same way. And I think that's really important. And I think we should be very proud at West Devon of the speed with which we have reacted to this situation, how we have kept on top of it, and that is down to our officers and to Councillor Bridgewater. So I would like to thank you all for that. It's very much appreciated. I know it's ongoing and it will be for a little while. And I know Mr Parkinson is now getting very involved as well. So, you know, thank you to you all. Thank you. Does anybody, no, we've done the questions, nobody had any. So may I please ask for all those in favour of noting the report, please?
That's unanimous for noting. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Well, that's it, everyone. So thank you very much. Done inside an hour. So thank you all for your attendance and thank you to everyone for your ongoing work within the hub, etc. Thank you.